Any self-respecting motovlogger knows how to put their gloves on in a minute, and at the moment that ain't me. Have you got the key? have I got the key? Have I got the side stand down? Drat and blast. Have you checked pockets and that? Maybe Jake's put it in his pocket.
A few moments later.
Looking for this. It was in Jake's pocket, so we're good. Right, take two. Anyway, we're off to Snetterton. Have a little look at this bike. Potentially some touring cars going on as well. So let's see if I can get on the track. Chances are, no. But maybe on an off lap or something, they'll say, yeah, have a little spin. Again, chances are, no. But we'll give that a go. Here we go, this is where Brett lays down the power. I like that. I like that a lot, you know. Yes, Aprilia, I will be a racer and you're going to help me. You're going to help me be a racer. Let's go to Snetterton. I wonder if they'll let me on the track. Let's find out. So welcome back to Bike Matters. Today on the channel we've got the RS 125 GP Replica from one of Italy's finest racing outfits, Aprilia. Now for this one, of course, we brought it to Snetterton, as you can see, hoping to get on the track, but they were having none of it. The touring cars going around, and it's not really something I want to get mixed up in. As you can see, they sound absolutely gorgeous. Anyway, we're starting here, talk about the bike a bit on the way back to BikeMatters HQ, covering a few bits. There's loads to talk about on this bike, so let's get into it. Right, well, no chance getting into Snetterton. Not only is it touring cars, but it's BSB at the same time as well. As in the following weekend. So I don't think they want to take any risks. This is the RS 125. Now you might think, oh, the RS, is that a two-stroke? Nope. It's four-stroke. It's based in the RS4 125. In fact, on the I'm lost already. Anyway, on the documentation for this, it says part of the RS4 family, or you get the family feeling of the RS4, which is great, but it's not the RS. So they're just paying respects to what was an incredible bike back in the day, the RS 125, which you probably will know as an absolute beast, because it was. But so's this. Now of course, because this is the GP Replica, it's based on their racing heritage, and as it kindly tells me here, they have 54 world titles. Now that must mean something. They know what they're doing when it comes to race bikes. Of course, there is other manufacturers that do race bikes, but these guys have had plenty of success over the years. Now they say all of that racing heritage has been put into this bike in terms of the equipment and the sort of aesthetic of the bike. Clearly this one is adorned with all sorts of sponsor labels. So it's got all this livery on. It's not just stickers that you're paying for. Now the RS GP comes with a quick shifter as standard, which is brilliant. More on that in a minute. But it also has a lot of weight reduction. They've reduced the bulk, they've streamlined it. Now, because it is a 125, it still has to fit in the CBT and the A1 category in terms of power, and it does do that. It's 15 brake horsepower, 10.5 newton meters of torque, so respectable numbers that it's putting it out. For everyone that's on the CBT, they can get this bike no problems out of the box and use it. Happy days. Of course, all this power is shifted nicely through those gears. Now, first gear I found quite short for the first few times I used it. It's really just to sort of get you going and pick up a little bit of speed, at which point you want to shift straight into second, just to continue on. No complaints with the gearing, of course, it is brilliant. And all the gears after that are fine, 6 gears nice and tall. And it's important to note that in these gearings, as I see here, you've got to sit quite high in the rev range, in that sweet spot to get a lot of power. If you find yourself in too high of a gear at low revs, you won't have anything to get yourself moving. Of course, 125s are all about keeping that power and keeping that sort of sweet spot right where you want it for peak torque, peak acceleration, peak braking. Now, as I say, 6th gear is nice and tall. You can sit at 60 miles an hour on an A road in 6th gear and it won't be shaking, it won't be, you know, going nuts. It feels really smooth, really comfortable. A lot of 125s do suffer from this, where they start shaking crazy amounts at sort of top speeds, and when you're in 6th gear pushing it to 70, it feels fine. It feels like it's got a lot of poke. 76 is what I've got out of this. Now, of course, I'm what, 6'4". I don't know exactly how much I weigh, but just over 15 stone. So I'm not exactly, you know, small by any means. And for me to get to 76, it still felt like it had a bit of poke left in it. It still felt like it had a bit of power and mobility, which is important. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure you can get it more than 76. Of course, bearing in mind 76 was on a private test track and we were running out of space. And if you're a lot smaller than me, you probably get it comfortably to higher speeds if you're on your own little private test track. Okay, and something I did mention earlier was a quick shifter. Of course, quick shifter is absolutely blinding on this. It works basically by clutchless shifting, so you don't need to worry about the clutch and you can pin the throttle, you don't have to roll that off at all. The engine sort of management control system works nicely to allow you some good shifts. And when I say good shifts, I mean like it actually is uninterrupted power basically. So when you're accelerating, and especially on a 125, acceleration is key to being safe on the roads, realistically speaking. That was a quick shift. And that was a clutch shift, a very slow clutch shift, I will add, but the good thing about a quick shifter is when you're going around a corner, you don't need to lose control of the bike by pulling the clutch in. You can just lift your foot and you're already in your next gear, continued power output. So power is of no concern when you're talking with the quick shifter. Works really nicely up and down, I found. One thing I'll add though is in first, quick shift to second, it does work absolutely fine, but you will find a bit of a lurch power where power comes straight on in second gear, and you do get a bit of a lurch. But that's not too bad. I mean, it could be so much worse than that. In terms of the braking power, luckily we've got ABS on the front. ABS provided by Bosch, very nice, thank you Bosch. It's a 300mm disc at the front, which is really good, provides really good stopping power, and it gives you that confidence to know that if you really do need to hammer on the brakes, you can, you know, really go for it. Rear brake is 218mm or something like that disc. It's a single pot on the back, 4 pot on the front. Again, you can't ask for any more from the back brake at all. It can lock up though because it doesn't have that ABS. Some people might like that on the track, some people maybe not, but I think it's absolutely fine. Just have to learn how to use the brake nicely and then you've got no problems at all. The rear sets, the clip-on handlebars, everything put together really puts you in a racing position. So you are leaning forward, you have got a lot of weight on your wrists if you're really leaning forward. But in terms of comfort, it's absolutely fine. It really allows you to get behind the bike and use some of that agility and nimbleness that it gives you. Steady on. So yeah, I mean, I'm quite tall and I fit nicely on this. What, 6'4", as I say. My legs feel fine on it. As someone did point out, my trousers are a bit short. But we can work with that. Oh god, I just can't get over the power. It's just insane. I love it. I have so much fun on this 125. Anyway, to just continue on. As a road bike, you've got to remember these things. It's not just a GP bike. It isn't just a race bike. But as a road bike, it's really good. Miles per gallon, as I say, over about 100. Under seat storage is decent. You get a good 6-inch tablet, as they always bang on about. But I don't think anyone commutes to work with a 6-inch tablet. Is that really what you're going to do if you're limited for space? Are you going to bring a tablet along with you? Probably not. But either way, you can fit a tablet there if you really want one. But in real world speaking, you get a phone, wallet and keys under there, fine. So you're set for the day. Mirrors are fine. I see absolutely perfect out of those. So no worries there at all. Oh. And we're at 60. Happy days. It's not too bad for a 125. Like, come on. You do pay for it though. Now that is a point that I want to come into now, because £4,599, so 4,600 roughly plus on the road. You're looking at quite an investment for this bike. Now, if you've got the money, if you've been saving your pennies and you're really looking at this, go for it. You won't be disappointed with the power. You won't be disappointed with the fact that it's a GP bike. You'll impress all your mates. Happy days. Alternatively, why not look at an older second-hand GP? Because there's there's a few of them knocking around. Find one for a bit cheaper and still get the same. Of course, just make sure that you're getting one that's good and been in the right hands, because this one's easy to abuse. One thing I've got to say is thank you so much to Lexham for powering BikeMatters, because without Lexham, we wouldn't be able to be reviewing these bikes for you lovely people. So, if you do us a solid, do me a solid. Go to Lexham for a quote, if it's a renewal quote for your motorcycle, your scooter, your moped, even if you've got a classic bike knocking around that you fancy a quote on. Give them a call, see what they can do for you, and hopefully they can give you a competitive quote, because I'm pretty sure you'll be able to find a competitive quote with them. So thank you very much to Lexham, who power BikeMatters. Now, I've mentioned a couple of times the fact that this is a GP bike. Now, can you take it on track? Yes, you can. Quick shifter's amazing for that. You can take off the number plate holder, so the tail tidy, if you will. Take off the indicators if you fancy taking off the mirrors. I don't know how easy that one would be. But they say it would be very easy to take that off to streamline it even more. See what weight you can save as well by doing that. I really would just want it to have a bit more information on the dash, because that is one thing that I think it is lacking. You're paying all this money for a race bike. Yeah, I appreciate race bikes don't exactly have the most, informative dash displays, but come on. So I'm doing a bit of town riding here, coming into Dis, BikeMatters' hometown. And you'd think for a 125 sports bike, it's not going to be able to go into town. It's not going to be one you want to enjoy, but the clutch is nice and light, the brakes are good. The gearing's fine, it feels comfortable at lower speeds. So why not? Why not go into town? It does absolutely fine. The exhaust is not exactly what you'd hope. You want a little bit more of the exhaust. I'll go to the tunnel actually, I'll do a little tunnel test. And see what we can get out of the tunnel. But the exhaust is nice and planted in the fairing to give it that GP look. So it's not going to be a baffled experience or anything like that. It's going to be GP experience really. Whilst the exhaust doesn't sound incredible, the engine does, so it makes up for it, because the engine does sound really nice, especially when you're really going for it and you're pinning the old throttle. Now, of course, just generally, this bike does feel like a racer. The positioning you're in, you really are leaning forward. The positioning in terms of your arms and your legs, you really are put into that race position. So, you know, there's pros and cons there. Like, if you are happy to just be in a racer's position non-stop on your commute or just riding around, happy days, you know, no problems. But if you know, maybe you suffer from a bad back, or you've got wrist problems, or, you know, your foot cramps up easily, this isn't going to be for you if you're a shorter rider, because you will be constantly putting pressure on those places. One sort of pro and con really for me is that the rear has a LED light, which is nice, nice little touch, but the front is just a standard sort of yellow tinted headlights, which is fine, no problems there. Like, you can see and people can see you, but would it be too much to ask for some sort of modern LED tech on it? I don't know. But yeah, let's head back into BikeMatters HQ. I'll run through a couple of other bits about the bike, and we'll go from there. But as a key takeaway, I really like this bike. It's really good. Lovely, so now we know how this bike's going on the road. One, have a little bit look in BikeMatters HQ just about sort of parts and just see how it all gets put together by Aprilia. I mean, straight away you can see it's very race orientated. So you've got all of your decals, you've got all of your, you know, your nice screen bits here, and all of the nice just features that a sports bike would have, but then taken to the next level by Aprilia by adding these sort of race aspects to it as well. Straight away off the bat, it's nice and streamlined. It's really narrow. I mean, in terms of the tank, you fit really nicely onto it. The rear end is nice and narrow as well. I mean, it gets wider, but it still stays nice and sleek. So overall, when you're looking at this bike from a distance or even up close, you can tell it's a really race-inspired bike. And one of the key things on this bike is going to be the weight. Now, instantly from moving this bike around and walking around with it, you can tell that it's very light. Now, of course, Aprilia have said that they tried to reduce the bulk and the weight by using an aluminium frame. And that's going to be a huge detail here, just purely because it weighs so little. It's about 144 kilograms wet. The weight itself does mean that this is going to be picking up speed and acceleration nice and quickly, which is great. But at the same time, it means that when you're stopping, it's going to stop nicely as well. So overall, reducing the weight and reducing that bulk is a great move by Aprilia. Because for a sports bike, and especially a 125, they've got to get savings wherever they can just to get it into that racing category and make you really feel like a racer. So of course, what's all this power without stopping? Now, Aprilia have thought about this, of course, thankfully, because on the front, you've got a massive 300mm disc with ABS Bosch, so stopping power is there, and it's 4-pot caliper. Now, of course, it is a single disc, but just knowing from riding it on the road, it's incredible. I mean, you pull in that front brake and straight away you feel the stopping power and the engine braking coming in as well, and you stop really nice and quick. The rear brake hasn't got ABS, but it is still, I think it's 210mm disc, and it's a single pot caliper, but that even brushes off speed really nicely as well. So if you are coming to a quick stop, you know that you've got that stopping power behind you, and you know that the bike isn't going to start skidding on the front wheel. Some people do like having ABS on the back wheel, but some people don't, because it gives them a bit more control over the stopping. Of course, that does mean that the rear wheel could lock up if you really go for it on the rear brake. But again, some people do like that, especially on the racetrack, and as a GP bike, that's something that Aprilia have considered. Another point to mention is, of course, it is a Euro 4 standard bike, so it is going to be limited in terms of the sort of emissions and stuff like that that Aprilia have had to think about. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a slow bike. Of course, the RS 125, the standard 2-stroke, was phenomenal. It was incredibly quick. And this one is really fast, but it's never going to reach that same sort of level of power that the RS that this is paying homage to. It's never going to reach that. But at the same time, because it is that road bike and it's feeling really good as a road bike, it's going to be just as good on the road, if not better, because it's been refined and it's been thought about by Aprilia. Now, one thing I did notice as well, that the engine itself has got a sort of reverse crankshaft, I think it's called, which basically reduces the vibrations, especially at the top end. I've noticed on some sports bikes, especially 125s, when you really ask the engine to go for it, it starts to vibrate a bit and you start to feel a bit, you know, ooh, this is a bit hairy. But on this one, that's no issue at all. If you're cruising in 6th gear and you're really pushing the revs to the limit, that reverse crank is going to be reducing vibrations so that the bike feels nice and stable and planted at high speed. When I say high speed, I mean 70 or thereabouts. Of course, it still feels stable anyway, but it is key to note that on a 125, that's not common. A lot of times, I've been riding other sports bikes, as I say, and they do start to get a bit hairy, a bit more sort of vibration heavy, if you will, at the top end. And it's quite important that Aprilia have included that, and it's done really well. Now, of course, miles per gallon, it's a 14.5 litre fuel tank. I think it's got a 3.5 litre reserve, and I will point this out later, but there is no fuel gauge at all. So you're left in the dark a bit about how much fuel you've got in the tank. Of course, the fuel light will come on, and you know you've got 3.5 litres to get to the petrol station as quick as possible. But for me, that's not really quite good enough. You want to know how much fuel is in there without having to, you know, open it up and start swishing about to see how much is in there. But that's another story. Of course, because it's Euro 4, as I say, the miles per gallon is pretty good. I mean, this one's noted at about 104 miles per gallon or thereabouts. So over 100 for a 125 is expected, but for a sports bike, that's really, really good. Even using it as a commuter is worth considering. Okay, so let's have a look at this one here. So switching it on, nice and simple. Of course, the dash itself and the sort of trip computer and everything is so simple on this. Revs on the left, speed on the right. That is all there is really to it. Of course, you have got a few other bits, like at the moment, odometer's reading on the left there. Then you've got your actual engine temperature, and that's it. Of course, you press through a few of the menus here. Trip, so at the moment, 95 miles on this current trip, and trip 2 needs to be set as well. Your max speed, of course, this one was done on the BikeMatters test track, which is in a secret location, so 76 was achieved off the road. And it goes back to odometer. Now, that's really all it is to it, and that is a bit of a you know, a talking point in the sense that it's so simple and it is a GP replica, but it is the same for the standard RS as well. Of course, you see a few lights here. So the neutral indicator is great, got your indicator lights there, and the sort of high beam warning. Petrol light, which will be illuminated, as I mentioned earlier, that comes up to say, right, we're on reserve now, so get yourself to a petrol station. And then a few of the other ones, so the ABS light and the engine light, and a little warning light if the temperature of the engine gets too high. Of course, we'll start it up and just do a few of the bits there. Lovely. So this has been the Aprilia RS 125 GP Replica, an absolutely extraordinary bike. And to be fair, I love it. I mean, for the price, really good, but maybe you want to look at the second-hand market if you are worrying about the price. Of course, thank you so much for watching. Leave a comment down below, let us know what you think about the bike. I will reply to everyone that I can. And yeah, subscribe, like, hit the notification bell so you can keep up to date with the BikeMatters team. And I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.